I told you guys we're talking Julian Lewis from all angles this week. So today's video, we're going to approach it from the USC side of things, but also the Trojans going on the offensive a little bit. They hosted a huge visit weekend of their own, which included a few flip targets. We're going to break it all down with Scott Schrader of We Are SC. But guys, before we get going, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We talk a lot of USC recruiting on here, so go ahead, jump on board, hit subscribe. All right, let's bring in Scott Schrader. Now, Scott, we're going to start with offensive tackle Card Smith. He came in, committed to Auburn. He goes 6'6", 300 pounds. Now, he's from the state of Alabama, but he was out in L.A. this weekend. How did it go with USC?
You know, I think the visit went really, really well. He was a guy that we really hadn't been talking a whole lot about, and Julian Lewis took his official visit to Auburn. All of a sudden, these guys at Auburn targets end up setting up business to USC, which seemed pretty coincidental, I guess. But or or not. It makes you wonder sometimes how this stuff goes on, right? There's so much. It would be fascinating, I think, sometimes to have somebody who really tells the true stories about these things that goes on in some way. But anyway, the visit went exceptionally well. Again, you're talking about a guy from Mobile, Alabama, and Auburn is after this guy. He's committed. You've got other schools too that probably could get involved for all we know. But the visit went exceptionally well enough to where he said he's definitely going to be coming back for a game during the season. So regardless of how things end up going over the next few weeks, anytime these guys take a visit, it's always going to have some type of an impact. Immediately. But we'll see how things play out. But as of now, he plans on returning sometime in the fall.
All right. Now, there's also a lot of buzz around safety Karius Reid. Now, he's from Thomasville, Georgia, but committed to UCF. How's things going coming out of his USC visit?
Yeah, I heard that visit also went really, really well, and just the feedback that I got prompted me to just submit a USC prediction. So, hopefully we're just making a comment on our message board yesterday to where for those of us covering recruiting these days, we know whatever take we put out could change in the next hour, the next day, the next week. But right now, I submitted a USC prediction, and they're feeling pretty strong about him.
All right, so we'll see a big flip in the works potentially. All right, let's talk some trench targets, guys that were uncommitted that came into USC official visit weekend and left. Well, we're going to find out. Offensive tackle Malachi Goodman was in town from New Jersey. They got a shot there?
I don't really know how good of a shot they have, but anytime they bring a guy in for an official visit, the feedback I get is they feel like they have a shot. So, we're still trying to learn a little bit about him. I think we'll probably will today at some point, maybe even in the next hour or two. But again, it'll sound repetitive, but yes, the visit went exceptionally well. This is the feedback. Some of the other guys there were 5 commits. USC commits on this visit. The feedback was pretty positive, actually, on all these guys. And the feeling among the USC coaching staff was this was definitely by far the best visit overall too that they had for the 3 official visit weekends.
All right, now let's talk about a pair of defensive linemen that made a cross-country journey for their official visit to USC. That's Trajan Odum. He's out of North Carolina in defensive lineman, the #1 defensive lineman in America, Elijah Griffin. Now, despite those other 2 decommits last week from the state of Georgia, Elijah Griffin followed through with his visit. What are you hearing on Odum and Griffin coming out of their trips to USC?
Yeah, they made a big impact with Trajan Odum. I think, and he's a guy that's USC, Ohio State, and Oregon. Right now, I'd probably be inclined to still think that it's probably going to end up being Ohio State. But we'll see how things go. Elijah Griffin, yeah, there's another one. You're talking, lofty ambitions out here at USC, and he's the guy that it might not even be surprising if he's back in July. He's talking about coming back. At first, I thought that meant that it might be, some point during the season. But again, this is a situation. We'll see how things develop. My viewpoint is it's Georgia until it's not.
All right. Lastly, what we're all here for, Juju Lewis. He took a visit to Boulder over the weekend. We saw all the photos. We saw everything coming out of there. Seemed like the whole city showed up for him. But what's your thoughts and what are you hearing on Juju Lewis from a USC perspective now that the dead period's here?
Yeah, it was his recruitment was, it was the gift that kept on giving for people that cover recruiting. Committed to USC last August 2nd. They really didn't have, I don't think they had a commitment until March 24th. So that
Yeah.
was a long span that they had. They got they got some really, really strong commitments from a visit back in March, and which was Isaiah Gibson and Justice Terry and Drake Stubbs and some other guys. And some of these guys may not be committed here. Those three guys may all be committed somewhere else here in the future. But the feedback I'm getting is that there's just don't see a flip happening. So I think he's solid with his USC commitment. I think there is some concern still about the roster that USC can put together heading into the Big Ten. Obviously, Julian's not going to be there until next year, but there's still some concern about who USC is going to be able to sign ultimately.
Yeah. Do you think that we'll get some sort of finality from Juju Lewis this summer that, hey, I'm
Yeah.
shutting it down, I'm not going to take? Do you think that we'll hear from him before the season starts?
That was the plan, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I know ideally that's what USC would like. I think when you get some clarity on this is okay, this is the guy. Um, I don't know. I haven't gotten that far in the conversations yet, but I'm inclined to say that at some point, at least next month, I think we'll hear something.
Okay. All right. Well, USC fans, talk to me. How we feeling about the flip targets we spoke about? How we feeling about those trench targets we spoke about? And lastly, how you guys feeling about Juju Lewis post Colorado visit? Still think he's locked into USC? Let me know. Comment section below. Well, you've made it to the end of today's video, but there's hundreds more videos on the On3 Recruits channel for you to check out. And also, while you're here, hit subscribe.